Hi everyone. Really it's great to see so many names here today. Sorry for the delay. We're just trying to allow more people to join on. You're all extremely welcome to our Sage 200 Live at Lunch webinar today. My name's Howard Murphy. I'm the Business Development Manager for DD Computer Solutions. For those who don't know, we handle solutions covering Sage's portfolio of software, including some of our own modules as well. Today, we'll be looking at the advantages of upgrading from Sage 50 to Sage 200. Sage 200 is the next step from Sage 50 with enhanced capabilities that help manage your finances, customers, and business all in one solution. So the customers that have moved from Sage 50 to Sage 200 have done so for a number of reasons. And one of the chief reasons is growth. So it could be that the reports you're currently running are very basic and not giving you the right information to make the right business decisions. Reports on things like sales growth, like for like sales on previous years on specific product lines, or indeed customers alone. Another strong sign is that you're performing a lot of manual processes due to the lack of functionality in Sage 50. And a large percentage of our customers experienced this when it came to stock control, for instance, before they moved to Sage 200. Now, Sage 200 is very scalable, and therefore, before we launch into the actual demonstration, we're going to take a quick look at that. So you can see here from our screen effectively that we have two iterations of Sage 200. We have both professional and standard. Standard is a fully online product. Professional has cloud options also, which we'll talk about a little later on. What you'll see here is that we've many modules within that cover all aspects of just some of the basics that people require. So we have, for instance, the general financials and commercials, which comes with the base platform of Sage 200. You'll also see that there are areas there for the likes of project accounting, manufacturing, and so on. We also have a lot of integrated solutions out there as well through some of the other Sage accredited developers that you can see. So you can see Sicon there, for instance. Cumulus, of course, can help link with Sage's CRM. Sage 200 has the ability to link into the likes of Office 365, Power BI, etc. And you can also see Stripe and PayPal for taking care of payments there also. It's a very you can see there we have within standard as I mentioned earlier on, it's a fully online solution. With Sage Professional, we also have the ability to integrate or not to integrate to actually sit on an actual Azure platform. And I'll not get into that in too much because it's just to point out that there is a facility there that if you don't have a private hosted cloud, for instance, or you don't want to opt for it sitting on a local server, we do have options that we can put in front of you of sitting the actual Sage 200 platform in the Microsoft Azure. Just before we get into the demonstration, we want to just touch off on some of the key features that Sage 200 has over Sage 50. So one of the main things is that we can customize the nominal structure. We've mentioned elsewhere there that Sage 200 has a 3-tier nominal structure. So currently, if you're working with Sage 50, you'll know that you can only split it out by department. Within Sage 200, you can split it out by department and cost center, which allows you to customize and build templates around your management reports any which way that you like. You'll see also that just to skip through some of the items here, we will be touching on most of these throughout the demonstration. But for instance, we also have closed period accounting. So, we can actually, you can switch on and off some certain periods for a given time frame in order for you to shut off some periods and work in others. Sage 200 is full multi-company also, and as a result will allow for consolidation of those companies all in one, so you can run your reports based on that also. You do have the ability for purchase order requisition there, and you also have the ability to set up various levels of purchase order authorization. In fact, Sage 200 sits on a SQL database effectively, which allows us to actually integrate all modules together. The platform is written in that particular way so that, you know, we limit, for instance, a lot of the manual effort involved with regards to posting journals to the general ledger. For instance, the stock module is integrated directly with the actual general ledger for that specific purpose. And in turn, you also have the ability not the ability, but it already exists, whereby your sales and purchase orders integrate with each other. So, for instance, if there's a shortfall on an actual sales order, you can instigate an actual purchase order on the back end of that, and the stock will be allocated to the customer on the original sales order when it comes in, so it doesn't go astray. On that also, you know, you also have multiple stock locations as opposed to what you have in Sage 50. So for instance, you can have multiple warehouses and multiple premises, so that when you're actually looking to find stock for the purpose of your actual sales order, it will allow you to select from various locations. We have an Excel reporting module in the system as well. So for the purpose of reports in conjunction with Sage 200, we can set up, and there are some already default integrated pivot table reports in Excel, so that you can actually chop and change the reports the way you want in Excel itself, while reading the live data directly from Sage 200. There's also a facility for scanning and attaching documents to specific some specific sales orders, purchase orders, projects. All of that functionality is available there also. We can also, aside from the actual just general Excel integration, we can integrate with Power BI in conjunction with 365 in order to give you sort of high-level style dashboards also. Aside from the general users as well, that you general user access that you have as part of your ordinary licenses and accessing Sage 200, you also have what's known as connected users. With the standard platform, you have two of those to kick off with. They're at a reduced cost and allow sort of a read-only access into browser-style screens in order for you to give access to certain individuals that you don't want to have full access to Sage 200 itself. And on top of that, you know, it has a state-of-the-art API there as well in order to integrate with other items. So for instance, if you're looking to integrate with e-commerce sites, there are some already pre-existing modules there, such as Cloud Data Exchange or Data Exchange in itself, that will allow you to sort of integrate very easily with multiple websites, or indeed any other database that's out there also. So what I want to do now is that's just to give you sort of a general idea as to just some of the key feature sets that exist there for Sage 200 outside of Sage 50. We'll talk a little more of it as we go through the actual demonstration of Sage 200. And on that point, I'm going to look to sort of bring in my colleague, Gordon Lawler. See if I can bring him in here now. And I'll have him bring up a copy of Sage 200. So just bear with me for 1 second. Gordon, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you, Howard. I think you've to stop sharing your screen before I can start sharing mine. Okay.
There you go. So, you know, I think, you know, as you're bringing up, you know, Sage 200 on screen, Gordon, just if you can have a quick word on just the aesthetic itself. What people will generally spot is that, you know, if people can't see the screen, of course, I'd ask you to select full screen up in the top right. We'll also, just for everybody's interest, we're also recording this session today, and we'll send out a link to give you guys a look over the actual demonstration again. And feel free in the chat to send any queries as we go through some of these areas. So the first comment I'd make in here is that people will generally see you know, the same type of list structure that they'd be familiar with within Sage 50.
Yeah, just you can see my screen, Howard, can you?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like you say, it does have a very similar look to Sage 50. So you're going to have, the modules on the left hand side that kind of people have access to, and then when you click into one of those, you're going to see a list view kind of on the main screen. So, here we have the customer list, and it's going to have your kind of your buttons up the top to give you all the actions you can do. And a bit like 50, you can change these columns around or add different columns that you want to see on it.
Very good. Now, obviously, the aesthetic looks quite similar on the front, but obviously underneath it's a different story. As I mentioned earlier on, it's sitting on a SQL database, and just to sort of give people an understanding of what that actually means, is that it won't break effectively. It's a fairly sturdy, robust database, as opposed to, in some cases, some existing Sage 50 customers would have had to have their database repaired, in some cases quite often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of on a completely separate kind of file system, and it can be on a different server as well. The SQL can be, it tends to be more robust, and also it's more scalable. So Sage 50, when you get to a certain number of transactions or customers or products, it just starts to slow down, no matter how fast the hardware it's sitting on. Whereas 200, as you kind of get more data there, you can kind of give the computer it's running on a bit more resources, and it will kind of speed up again then as well.
Yeah. So look, I think one of the main differences between sort of Sage 50 and Sage 200 is along the actual stock, the stock management. So look, what we might do is, if we can take a look at the actual stock itself, and let's have a look at one of the actual products to just explain that.
Yeah. So again, you can see it has all the modules here. What's kind of nice is that you can have, one of the things that I never even noticed was that, people said to me about 50 is that you can only work on one thing at a time. So, you open an invoice and that's it. You have to like do all your work in that invoice before you can close it. In 200, you can actually open, a couple of things at a time. You can be logged into, a couple of companies at a time and work on them. So, that is handy. And you'll see here at the bottom, it's going to remember the last couple of modules you're in. So I can quickly click between them. So I can go between suppliers, customers, stock a lot quicker than you would normally in Sage 50.
Yeah.
So if I pick something here, so I'll just see. I'm going to pick the washer dryer, because these are one of the standard things that come with this company. The Sage Demo Data is a kind of a kitchen supply company. And again, it's based in UK, so everything is sterling. But you'll see this is kind of a stock item. You have a couple of things that are different from Sage 50. So probably the big one is that, well, one of the big ones is that 200 has multiple locations by default. So you'll see here that we have a lot of warehouses, and then within each warehouse you can have different bins. So at the moment you can see everything just has a default unspecified bin, but you can create new ones fairly easily. And then they also get a priority, so that bins will be, or sorry, stock that's in high priority bins will be used up before stock in low priority bins. So if we had all the stock in the front of the warehouse, that's where it's going to pull the stock from when you do sales orders.
Very good. And these are in different the stock items here are in different product groups as well, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought before we leave the warehouses, the other thing you can mention is the you can have minimum and maximum quantities on each of them. So when stock goes below a minimum level, you can run a report that will tell you these are below your minimum stock and you should be reordering. And it also gives you the reorder quantity as well that you need to order to kind of get yourself above those minimums. And again, if we look at the front panel here, you've got the product group is probably the most important thing out here. So you'll see that in 50 you have stock categories. So they're normally just numbers from 1 to 999, I think, by default. And it's kind of like just one level of analysis of your stock. Here you have your sorry, it won't let me change them, but each stock category is going to have a set of defaults that come with it. So when you create new stock in that product group, it picks up all of those defaults. Now they're just defaults, so you can change them. But it does drive things like what kind of stock it is. Is it a stock item? Is it going to be a FIFO? Or is it going to use standard costing or average costing, or what kind of costing method is used on that stock item?
Very good.
I suppose another thing to mention is, in 50 you have things like, the manufacturer details and part number. You get the same here in 200. So, we have the manufacturer and the part number here, but you'll also have kind of more details around the suppliers that you can use on the stock. So on 50, you just get one supplier with each stock item, and it's just basically linked to your supplier code in 50. In 200, you can have multiple suppliers against each stock item, and one of those will be the default. And again, there's more information than held against those supplier records on your stock item. So you'll see we have, a supplier stock code that's separate to the manufacturer stock code. So, when you do your POs, it can pick up the actual stock code your supplier uses. Lead times, what you usually order off them, what you ordered off them the last time. And then there'll be separate price lists for each of the suppliers as well.
Yeah,
and your POs then can pick up either, that supplier list price or the last buying price as well.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, if it's a case that you need to change, you're looking at your actual supply chain, you can look at these things at the point of sales order as well, I'm sure, and inform the client just on lead times if the product isn't available from one area.
Exactly, and you might be able to switch suppliers then, if there's a quicker lead time with someone else, but it costs a bit more, you can quickly look that up here as well.
Very good.
The other thing you have is batch and serial numbers, which again is something that's not there at all in Sage 50. There's no traceable stock, so you can track stock using batch and serial numbers, and it'll also add in things like sell by dates and use by dates. So again, you can have your stock. I said you can have it be used based on the priority of the bins, but you can also have it be used by what's the stock that's going to expire soonest, basically, or needs to be used up soonest.
That's right, and we've also, we have a solution there that covers all of that via barcoding as well, and handhelds too. Can you take a look at just to give people an idea as to how we break a lot of the actual products down through the analysis codes there as well, please?
Yeah. So on the analysis codes, you can see here we have, again, in 50, you just have the two nominals, so you're going to have your stock and your revenue, but you also have one here for like the accruals and issues. And then on the analysis code side, you can see there's 5 here set up at the moment. You can have up to 20, and these can be things that are either free text, so we can type in whatever we want. So I can put in a location there, and it'll just pick it up. Or else these could be set to be a drop down. So you've got you've got hard coded values in there, so you're not going to get up, or you're not going to get confused with spelling errors if people spell something differently.
And those analysis codes, I mean, obviously with the SQL database in place, it just allows that kind of flexibility, because we have these analysis codes throughout the actual system itself, of course. So it's not just in the products, but it's against customer, supplier records, nominals, and so on. So we can really get some in-depth reporting from those, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, people have probably used the ones in 50, but you only have 3 of them there, and they're all with a free text, which means people are it's fine for something like a sales rep, but other things, you'll always get variations, in spellings and stuff that confuse reports later on.
Absolutely. So you want to touch on that? I know you were jumping into the alternatives or cross-selling there, just to give the guys an idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, you can see, this is a washer dryer, but if you didn't have them in stock, Sage will suggest, to sell maybe a washer on its own. So you can have it set up alternate stock items for all of your current stock, and you can also have this cross-selling here. So if you sell a washer dryer, it could prompt to have salt or washing powder or something like that.
Got it, yeah.
Or again, any kind of spares or consumables that you'd normally sell, it can prompt when you sell your main kind of your main goods, basically.
Gotcha. And of course, you can also record any attachments or memos here also too.
Exactly. So I mean, you can put in things like just documentation, like instruction manuals, or CE certs, or anything like that. And kind of like all the records in 200 have this option that screen where you can attach documentation or any kind of spreadsheets or you need to go with any of your records.
Okay, so let's take a look at that in the context of a sales order, let's say, for instance. So if we can show people how we would generate a sales order,
yeah,
and how we go through pick and dispatch, just in very general.
Yeah. So again, I suppose I should point out that the menu here is very big because I've got everything in it, but people will have that customized to just what they want to use.
And of course you have a search option up at the top as well, so you can just type in what that process is.
Exactly.
It'll help you jump there.
So,
and just on that, on the actual aesthetic, just to talk about that, before we get into sales order processing, you can also, the Sage 200 can also learn as well what the day-to-days are for specific users during the week. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So I mean, if we go in here to this kind of home screen, you'll see the frequently accessed thing will tell me this is what I normally look at on a Thursday. So if you have a certain kind of flow of your work throughout the week or the month, it remembers basically.
And it shortens down your day-to-days on the left-hand side, so you don't have to go searching around either.
Yeah, and again, you can add things to your favorites. So you can just have all the normal things you'd have on the favorites button here, and that's kind of just the 10 or 12 things you'd be doing every day.
Very good. All right. Anyway, let's get into the sales orders. Let's take a look.
Yeah. So if I do a new order here, and again, because this is demo data, it doesn't get. Yeah, there we go. So if I just pick Abbey Retail, and I'm going to say, again, these can be defaulted, to a user. So for me, I don't have like a default set up, so I just need to pick what warehouse I'm selling out of. And then if I add an item, and I'll say washer. So again, I'm going to pick that washer dryer I was looking at earlier. I'm going to sell one of them. Okay, so I don't actually have any in stock in the home warehouse, but here you can see I can quickly see where I have free stock. So I have some in the factory. So I'm going to say, right, one from the factory. It picks up, the default price, tells you my unit cost. Down here, you're going to see the kind of the default nominal codes that come with that stock item. I can look at things like the profit on it, estimated profit, and I can also amend the batch or serial numbers on it as well, because this is a traceable item. So I'm just going to save that and close that. Again, you see there's a menu at the side that's actually provided by an add-on to Sage. So I think Howard might talk a bit more about kind of the ecosystem behind it, but there are lots of add-ons available. Again, you can set up multiple delivery addresses. So if I go in here, yeah, you can see there's, these are just ones that people have been playing around with in the demo system, but you can have multiple addresses against your customers. And again, you can see here the analysis codes. So, it's by default, this customer has analysis code set up against it, and they'll filter through onto all the sales orders. So, the salesperson is none, but we could actually change that at this point. So, yeah, this is a sale for Howard, basically. And then I'll just save that. Give it a customer order number. Okay, that.
So one thing where you will have seen at the top there as well is that it mentions invoice payments also. So we'll get to that in a moment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can see it's automatically brought up my picking list, and it's picked the next batch number for that washer dryer as well. So in the warehouse they would they need to specifically give it that or they need to load that particular washer onto the truck. But you can also have it that they can pick anyone, and then they need to tell you basically what serial number they've shipped out.
Yeah, and of course, this is a manual print off for a picking list, but we also have some options around handhelds for doing exactly the same thing and scanning them.
So once that's done, I'll just refresh my list here to see where our order is at. So you can see here it's fully allocated and it's ready for dispatch. So I can dispatch that now. So I'm just going to dispatch with today's date. And that'll give us our dispatch documentation then as well. So again, because this is the test system, people have obviously been, playing around with the layouts on it. But again, you can see we can put, lots of nice logos and documentation or kind of, certifications on the layouts. And then that can be emailed direct from here, just like Sage 50.
That's right.
And once that's done, we can see here then, what kind of, where it is in the process. So you can see it's fully dispatched. It's now ready for invoicing. So I can print the invoice. And I'm going to say yes. Again, you'll see here it's warning me because this company, I think, is still in 2021 or maybe even 2020. So it's gone yellow here to tell me that, the date on the invoice is outside of the financial year.
And of course, one of the other items we were talking about earlier on is, of course, that we can, we can instigate a purchase order on the back of the actual sales order itself if we've any shortfall, isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can link them together. So I mean, well, if we look at, say, one of the ones that's open here already, just amend this. When you actually look at the detail on the line of the order, so you see here by default it's just going to show you the values, so the quantity and the monetary price of it. But here you can see, there's one quantity, nothing allocated, nothing dispatched, nothing invoiced, and it's not linked to a pop order then as well. So, if they were kind of like, back to back, you would see a link there between your PO and your sales order.
Yeah, indeed. You have a button on the bottom there for save and generate an actual purchase order on the shortfall itself as well.
Yeah.
So on that, if we can take a quick look at the actual purchase orders. I know that the look is very similar.
Yeah. So if I wanted to actually, I just want to see if I look at my stock list, I just want to try and buy one of those washers, but I want to see what was the default supplier for them as well. So if I pick washer dryer and go to suppliers, so it's SAS 001. So if I put in a new order here, and we say, I just add a so again, another washer. And you'll see here, you can have it delivered to any of your locations as well. So each of the warehouses you've set up will have an address associated with it, and that address will appear on the PO. So I wanted to go to home because I had no stock there. The other options you can see, you can have things like direct delivery from supplier. So you can have stock directly delivered to your customer from the supplier. So you don't actually have to receipt in at your main site.
Or as you're showing there as well, if they're using the likes of the project accounting module, you can allocate the stock directly to a project itself.
Yeah, exactly. By default, you're always going to see this project analysis or nominal analysis on each of these. So if I say I want 5 of them, and we can do things like we can set up, multiple dates. So, I want 2, we'll say tomorrow, and then I just need to balance to 3 at the end of next week.
Yeah, all of this a lot more flexible than what exists within Sage 50 currently.
Yeah, and again, you have your analysis codes here again, so you can set up who's actually buying it, and then what areas with it. Again, these are fully customizable, so you can have 20 of these against any line. So if I save that, I put in a supplier reference, and then we can just save that.
Or you can, I noticed there you have a button there for save and receive all to speed up the process.
Exactly, yeah.
Purchase.
I think that might be one of the Eureka add-on stuff.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
So yeah, the kind of the default stages with Sage then would be to receive those goods in. So I'm going to confirm goods received. And I'm going to say, we're going to reference there, and we're going to say, I'm receiving them to home. And it's not letting me, oh, sorry. Yeah, it's traceable stock.
It's a traceable item.
Yeah.
So you have to key in the serial number.
Yeah, so I'm going to say A, B, C, D, E. So yeah, we have 5. Is it actually, if I just tell it to auto create numbers and say start with 1000 and pick there. Okay. Right. So I think the problem was that it didn't have the dates and the other ones, so that's why it's not accepting them. I probably shouldn't have picked a traceable stock item for this part of it.
And the multiple delivery dates.
Yeah. Okay. We can delete that last one. Yeah. Oh, it's still not letting us do it. No. What I might just do in that case is
even one of the other ones that are
exactly.
Not traceable.
Yeah. So hopefully this isn't not traceable. The problem was that wasn't authorized.
It wasn't authorized, yeah. So that's just the point, just to make to everybody there as well, is that you can set various purchase order authorizations in place. So the reason why Gordon couldn't actually accept it in is because it was probably set at a particular level. Most likely the actual price over £1,000, and coming in. So you have notification going to the hierarchy to indicate whether the purchase order is authorized or not. So you can see there's a list of the orders there. That's the one that he's actually generated, and he's authorizing it there. So important note. And something else to point out, you don't necessarily have to, the person who authorizes doesn't have to have direct access to Sage 200. There's a variety of ways in which they can actually release that.
Yeah, and again, you'll see there's a column here then for authorization status. So you can see my one is authorized. There's some here that presumably they're below some kind of threshold, so they don't need it. So I should be able to receive that now. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and this is where we got.
And then you can put your serials in.
Yeah. So, and I presume it'll let me put in duplicates or. All right, yeah, so it actually won't let me do duplicates this time. You can have it set that you can use, duplicate batch numbers if you want. So I'm going to say yes and save that. So again, kind of one of the things about 200 is that there's an awful lot more options to configure, and then if they're not configured right, it's going to trip you up like it did to me there. And if we hit refresh here, you'll see should be able to just record the invoice now for that. So even though I'd sent in 2 different delivery dates, I've just received all in the one. So again, 5 to be invoiced here. And again, it's matched against the GRN as well. So, the invoice and the GRN are linked together.
Yeah, of course, there are also other solutions there as well for auto matching up a lot of this, the documentation in the background as well for reading any of the invoices coming into the system.
Yeah, and actually speaking of that, I suppose one of the things then you can do here is we can go, we can attach the invoice. So if we had an actual PDF invoice, we could attach it, or you can even scan it here. So I'm just going to attach something that I have on my. I'm just going to pick one of these documents, save that. and then close that. So the order is complete.
And the stock is available within the system itself then.
Yeah, so again, so if we went back to, I think it was it the dishwasher dryer I bought, and we go to view the history. Yeah, it must have been one of the other ones. Let's quickly have a look. You were paying attention, Howard. You know exactly what stock it was, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
So
The washer.
The wash dryer 1200. So it's this one here. So if we look at the history then, it's still not showing it. Oh, sorry, it's wash dry 1200. Third time lucky. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So you can see, it has the full history of the stock there. And again, you can, look at just say things like goods in, and then limit it to the specific warehouse as well if you want to.
So just to move on then from our purchasing and conscious of time here as well, maybe we can take a look at one of the major differences really between Sage 50 and 200, which is on the nominal side of things. So we can take a look at the actual financials.
Yeah.
So give us a run through. What are the differences there, Gordon?
I suppose kind of the main differences are your report categories. So, each set of nominals is grouped by these report categories, and then it's the report categories that feed into your trial balance and your profit and loss accounts. So in 50, you have to pick a range of nominals, to report against. In 200, you link your nominals to a report category, and then it's those report categories that will appear on your financial layouts. So you can see, all of the carriage out ones here are under, say, 54 if they're report category. So all that carriage will come under that one heading in the in your financial layouts. And the other thing then, of course, is you have the cost centers and departments. So you can see, all of the carriage nominals can be then analyzed by these. So, you've got sales, returns, then you have like by location. So these ones for SCO or Scotland. I think these are, on the department side, then you have like bespoke, commercial, value lines, that kind of thing. And again, they're all fully customizable. So, you have your cost center names here. So you can see, that's the structure they have in this company for them. And then for the departments, the administration, bespoke, kitchen components, value.
And of course, you also have your analysis codes there too, also against those.
Exactly, yeah. So each of the nominal transactions can have those analysis codes against them. So creditors control there, you'll see we can actually go into it. And I suppose the other thing then from the nominal point of view is that you do have proper accounting periods. So in 50, everything is date based. Here you have your dates, but you also have your period numbers. So so again, this company is only up to 2021, but you'll see, there are period numbers against all the transactions. So if a period was closed and you posted an invoice into it, it will still have the date you've given it, but it will actually hit the next open period. And you can see that then on the period end routines here. And again, these can be kind of, customized so that only certain people can see them or make changes to them. So actually they're in and well, I can find them from the menu with the search. Oh.
There's enough of them.
Yeah, there's enough things with period in them. If I close this and perhaps here we go, counting periods. So so you see we're just into January of 2021 here. So I can open all of February here if I wanted to. And again, you don't have to open all the modules at once. You could, open some of them at a time and keep others closed. So you see, you've got separate ones for sales and purchases and stock, and then your nominal adjustments at the end of it. So it's just telling me, you know, everything that's now coming from future and is going to actually hit the nominals at this stage.
Far more flexible than what's in 50.
So I can, yeah, and there's the nominal ones, which is the last journals.
Yeah.
And then you'll see that, you know, February is open then at that point. And it also keeps a log of that as well. So I can see, you know, who did what. So, you know, you'll see that Gordon opened the sales ledger on the 15th, sorry, the 12th of the 5th.
Okay, and just touching on the actual reports there for a second. Obviously, you know, there's a series of reports available there. We saw them when you went searching there a second ago.
Yeah.
Aside from the general kind of reports where we brought them up on screen, we have stuff in that we can utilize in Excel as well, which we spoke about earlier too.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you're going to have your normal kind of, you know, account analysis, your day books. You'll have your financial statements here. So again, you'll see you'll have trial balances, but you can also have them trial balance by cost center. You know, so you've got that extra level of flexibility about, you know, how you're going to run the reports. And again, you can also send anything on the screen to Excel. So you know, a bit like 50, you know, you just right click, export, and you can send all to Excel or just the selected items to Excel.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the actual reports that we can build, the pivot table reports, they read directly from the source as well. So you can refresh effectively the source coming into Excel to have your reports on top of, you know, literally on top of the live information all the time.
Yeah, so you see these are kind of the standard ones that come with 200. So you know, normally what you would do is, you know, you can select these, you then update it, and it should update pretty quickly on this one. So yeah, this stock items one is now, you know, fully updated. So if I view it, it'll show me bang up to date information. And we can also kind of, you know, link other reports from outside of outside of Sage itself directly into the SQL database without having to use any kind of the Sage menus.
Yeah, and anybody familiar with pivot tables here, you know, will readily see how easy it is to drag and drop each of the individual fields in there to build it the way they want.
Yeah, and you've got, you know, slicers as well, so you can, you know, do things just by one particular warehouse.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to touch on here as well, that you could see if you bring it back to Sage 200 for a second, just to highlight the workspaces element of it as well.
All right, yeah.
So aside from the view that you see here, the typical list view that that you'd be familiar with within 50 as well, 200 has that also, but it also has the facility of working with workspaces. So workspaces are just a different way in which you can run your day-to-days. You can access the information in a different way. So for instance, instead of drilling into each individual dialog screen, you can have a number of screens that will you know, effectively drill from one to the other.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see this is the order I put up earlier. And it, you know, on the bottom of the screen, then it's going to kind of show you some analysis of that order. You can, you know, change what columns you want to see on here as well. And you can also do things like put in filters, you know, so you're only looking at your orders or orders that were done on a specific date or orders that are only live, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, each kind of module then has a number of these workspaces with it. So if I look at I think the one in the sales order pro, this one, document status, is kind of a good one in that it shows you, yeah. So you know, it shows you the full kind of 3-panel view. So you know, as you click into an order here, you'll see kind of detail about the order header here, and then you'll see actual kind of like detailed on the lines of the order down here
on the line items, and then it changes the screen on the right hand side accordingly. Yeah. And of course these workspaces are also available via browser as well, aren't they?
Yeah, so I mean here, you know, we're in what's this, Firefox or something, so you know, again, you're seeing exactly the same information here.
Yeah. So aside from, this is what we were speaking about earlier on with Sage 200 Professional as well, is the fact that you can opt for connected users, which is a sort of a read-only access to it via browser, and you can view this anywhere.
Yeah. So they can be published kind of, you know, outside the, you know, the company site as well, so people can see them on the internet basically.
Yeah, very good. So it's something we're always very conscious of when we're moving people from 50 to 200 are the actual the user license numbers. So, you know, we take a look. People may tell us, look, we need 10, 15 users, but we take a look at how many people are accessing it concurrently, and how, you know, some people might just need that kind of access, not necessarily full-blown access to the full Sage 200 system also, and they want to view it remotely too. The other thing I was just going to ask you then, so obviously these are different methods of reporting and viewing the information from here. As mentioned at the very start, there are a number of modules out there as well throughout the Sage ecosystem that you can utilize, you know, to use to view this info here. So were you going to show something there for us?
Yeah, I was just going to show, you know, this is the list of, you know, add-ons that come with this particular Eureka add-on. So you can see, you know, most of them are probably turned off, but you do get things, you know, that you can create, you know, new customers on the fly, or you get, you know, profit warnings, you know. So there are kind of a lot of features here. I mean, I think it's the telesales one that gives you a, you know, when you're entering an order, you can see things like, you know, the last 5 or 10 orders that customer has placed, and you can, you know, quickly copy them and see what prices they got and what they've actually bought.
Yeah, and look, as we talk to each person that needs to move from 50 to 200, obviously we're looking at it from a solution point of view, not just a product that's going in place. So, you know, at the very start, we're really scoping all the requirements, what's necessary, what you need, what you don't need, in order to make sure that it's a solution that'll be robust for the years to come effectively. And also that it's quite scalable, in that there are options there which can be utilized further on down the line. For instance, we get a lot of inquiries on, sometimes they'll just mention basic stock control as a problem with 50. And although we have solutions around stock control, we also have solutions around manufacturing and production there also, which they may allude to. So we can utilize things like bill of materials, obviously, better batch control, works orders, and full-on MRP as well. What I just point to, just to give an example of that, if you can unshare your screen for a second, Gordon.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show something on my side. So just to give you an idea of some of the other modules that you can potentially use there also, is that you can also see, just see if I can share it here now. Just bear with me. I would say, let me see. I'll just show you, I'll bring it here on screen now. So tell me if you can see that okay. So that's just an example there of, this is Pan Intelligence, for instance. So this is reading directly into Sage 200. It's an executive overview, a live read directly into the database itself. Without getting into too much detail, you can see there that there are a list of dashboards ready-made to sort of look at all that information from that SQL database that you've seen. So right through from the financials, P&L, through sales growth, your purchases, your stock, all the way throughout. So there are plenty of different modules that you can utilize for the purpose of, whether it's a case that it's production or whether it's warehouse management. If you're looking for barcoding options, we have plenty of those to sort of offer to you. You know, reporting, remote access to it, project accounting we touched on earlier on, and of course Sage's own CRM, which can integrate directly with Sage 200 for people to sort of use as a sales tool effectively, or even a service tool, which will allow people to record all communication around jobs, quotes, what have you. You can build the quotes outside in Sage CRM, and they'll become available directly in Sage 200. So there's no duplication of effort from start to finish. So just to highlight all those items. So look, that was our view through it. I know we've probably run a little bit over time in getting through some of the detail of what we've actually shown you there. What we'll do is we'll take a look at a couple of questions that have come in here. Gordon's replied to a few already. So one of the questions we have here, Gordon, I think you replied to it already, was, can the stock be transferred? This is from Anne-Marie O'Mani. Hi, can stock be transferred to cost of sales automatically when a sales invoice is generated? So you've responded there. So the answer is plainly yes. The stock can be integrated with the nominal ledger. Can you have Sage 200 hosted by Azure and available to log in via browser rather than having it installed on individual machines? I think currently at the moment, it's when it's hosted in Azure, it's accessed via terminal server licenses. Would that be correct in saying, Gordon?
Yeah, I think you can have it kind of that you have a link on your desktop and you double click it, and the remote desktop kind of it displays as if it was a local app on your machine. I think.
Yeah. That's the same with the Sage 200 standard version.
Yeah.
It looks it's not there's no local install by having it on Azure anyway, so you're not taking up any resources on the local machine. At least I hope that answers your question, Stephen. Sorry, if I haven't, we can have somebody who's more experienced within that environment to talk to you directly if needs be. The other thing I was going to say was that well, I was going to ask you, Gordon, do you come up against anything, from people who are operating in 50, anybody you're supporting, that they tend to put a lot of manual effort into on Sage 50 that is readily available within Sage 200?
Um, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I suppose it's kind of importing invoices and stuff like that. That can get quite tedious in 50. And with things like data exchange, it can be a lot easier to integrate it with 200.
Yeah, and pulling that information in. Yeah. Well, if we'll give some people some time here just to see if there's any other questions that we can answer here also. I think that I'd like to get more detail about that, as we want to operate via browser on desktop servers. Okay, yeah, no problem. We can talk to you directly on that, Stephen. We can show you the actual options that are available to you. We will be sending out, obviously, a copy of the presentation and a link to the video back to this again for you guys to take a look over. And Stephen, I think I have something specifically about the Azure integration as well, or the Azure setup that I can forward over to you that you can have a look through also. Let's see here. Do we have anything else? If anybody else has any other questions, please feel free and put them through. We'll give it a little bit of time before we actually do that. Let's see, project reporting. No, we haven't. We didn't get into the specifics of project reporting, Joe. We wanted to sort of cover off some of the main differences between 50 and 200. We can provide a more detailed version of that, which we can actually go through with you. We can show you exactly how it works from start to finish. Joanna says here, does Sage 200 facilitate margin scheme invoicing? I'm going to direct to you here, Gordon.
Is that the same as VAT cash accounting and the other, basically 50, you can have your VAT due at the point of invoicing or at the point, what's the other option, or at the point of payment, basically. So in 200 you only have the invoicing option. VAT is going to be due at the point of invoicing.
Very good. Okay, and you might let us know, Joanna, if we're on the right track there for you. If not, we can talk to you directly. Alexandra is also looking at project reporting also. So I think we've a couple of people asking about that here. So what we might do is we might set a mini breakout session for this, possibly at the start of next week. And what we'll do is we'll bring you in to take a look at the actual project accounting module. There are some varieties there around project accounting. Sage has its own module specifically for that. There's also something else with a bit more detail in it and a bit more interaction with some of the other elements of Sage 200 that's provided by Cycon, who would be another accredited Sage 200 developer also. So what we might do is we might have a quick phone call with you. We'll talk through some of the actual requirement that you have currently, and then we'll tailor the demonstration specifically for that. Let's see if there's anything else that maybe we're missing. Feel free, anybody, by the way, even when we're finished here today, to drop an email back to us on anything specific. If you want us to actually have a one-to-one session, we're still available towards the end of the day. We'd be very happy to log on, take a look even at what you're doing currently at the moment, and get some more specifics from you. And we can answer those things directly. All I need you to do is just let me know your availability. Data migration from 50 to 200 straightforward. So Sage have a migration tool from 50 to 200, which effectively brings across the history. Isn't that correct, Gordon?
Yeah, it'll bring across as much as you want. I suppose, ideally we'd like people to have their 50 to be as clean as possible before that happens, and you don't really want to bring everything across. We kind of bring across just a year or two or something like that.
Yeah.
The other option is that it might kind of limit you in some ways, in that if you have the custom kind of the analysis codes that 50 give you, it'll bring all of them across. So if they're kind of a bit rubbish in 50, you're going to bring a lot of rubbish into 200.
Yeah, and we can help you through that process, because unlike Sage 50 and how it's implemented, Sage 200 is very much a solution install. So we take a good look at your existing 50. We'll run a good health check over it. We'll make some recommendations there for you prior to the move. So it's carefully project managed throughout. So what we generally do is just to give you guys an indication of the process that's involved there. So once we get the go ahead to proceed, we'll start with a kickoff meeting, agree who the key users are, and then set up the scoping session previously aforementioned. So as part of that scoping piece, we will analyze everything, the individual users, the skill sets involved, what the requirement is, your existing setup for your nominal ledger. We'll make strong recommendations with regards to how you can get the most out of the general ledger based on what you saw earlier on. So we'll be showing you things like, well, what happens is once we go through and we see what you're looking for and the type of reports that are involved, the project isn't handled by any one person, so it's usually a team. So the information is passed between them, they deliberate on it, they put forward what the suggested solution is. Then after that, we kick off the base install of Sage 200. We will lay out a full project plan from start to finish and have a weekly 15-minute meeting with everybody to discuss exactly where we are, where we're going to, and what will be covered in the following week and what have you. Then obviously, aside from training and everything else, we'll cover a sort of a straight handover at the time of go live, and then we'll usually have a follow-up a month later to see how you're getting on as well, to review the actual processes. So I'm just going to give we've one other question coming in before we wrap up. Let's see. How much is 200? Well, what we'll do is we have some pricing available. It really just depends on what you need. So as mentioned earlier on, Sage 200 is on a subscription basis, depending on whether you're looking at standard or you're looking at 200 professional, the number of users involved, the type of licensing involved as well. Look, if anybody's looking for an indication on pricing on it, what they might do is they might email me, give me an indication of users. Take a look at, we probably would need to see which modules that are required in your particular situation. I can give you a fairly general kind of cost on it. So Alexandra, if you maybe email me directly, and anybody else, just send me along, how many users you have, what the requirement is. I can give you a loose indication as to what the cost will be. All right, so I think what we'll do is we're going to wrap it up there. We're just after hitting the 1 o'clock mark, so I'll give everybody a chance to recover after that. Thanks very much again, Gordon, for coming in and giving us the demonstration. Thanks for Natalie for organizing everything else in the background. As I said earlier on, please feel free, contact us at any stage during the day if you need anything else from us. We will be sending out a link to the actual video itself later on. We'll be sharing that too. And if anybody's looking for a direct demonstration, wants to line it up, please do let us know. We'll organize it on the back of this actual meeting. Other than that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. It's been great to have so many people on, and all the best. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.